Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. Even though we're getting ready to freeze over here in north central Wisconsin, a lot of the country is actually still very warm with falling water temperatures. And when you've got falling water temperatures, one of the best baits or types of baits that you can go with is topwater. And I know that sounds weird if you live up north because right now we're talking about water temps in the 30s. Probably not the ideal topwater time. But if you happen to live down south, and I just talked to a bunch of buddies of mine that live like down in Oklahoma, and their water temps are still well in the 60 degrees. If you're way down south, it's even warmer than that still. So your water temperatures are going to stop. But one thing that happens when the water temperatures do start dropping, especially into the 60-degree range, is you have a lot of shad die off and small forage die off. So it could be bluegill, could be perch, could be shad, could be minnows. Well, when that water temperature drops, it stresses them, and that can lead to mortality. If it does lead to mortality, generally what that means is you have the opportunity for some very, very good topwater fishing, because what happens with a lot of those bait fish is they generally are just fluttering around. Sometimes they get up to the surface, sometimes they go die on the bottom. In either case, it allows the bass a very easy time to forage if you've got dying bait fish and shad that are in the area. Well, anytime you've got dying bait fish, topwater baits work very, very well. So there is a range of water temps, generally from, I'm going to say, the 60-degree range down into the 50-degree range, where topwaters can be very, very good. Now, having said that, I generally only have a handful of topwaters that I really like to fish during this period. I don't like to fish my slower moving topwaters nearly as much as a moving topwater bait. So things like a popper, things like your prop style baits generally don't perform as well for me. And I think a big part of it is I'm just not covering enough water. Doesn't mean they won't get struck, but a lot of times what you're really trying to do is cover water during this fall, early winter period. And your moving topwater baits just allow you to do that. You're casting and winding for the most part. So all of these baits generally are going to be more of a cover water, with the exception of one. But I really keep this selection much smaller. Today's video is brought to you by the Deep Dive app. This has had an amazing new update. As you guys know, I love the water clarity feature. As you can see right here, we're looking at Grand Lake, which just had a whole pile of rain come into it. It went from being really clear to having a lot of dirty water coming in the bottom end of it. Just an amazing feature to be able to determine where the clear water is versus the muddy water. So Deep Dive has just also introduced Stream Flow. Now this is a really cool feature that shows all of the water input coming into certain reservoirs and the amount of water coming in. So they measure it in cubic feet per second. You can see in this case, this is just a small creek, but then you can see the projected as well as the previous flows. If we move up the lake here, get into one of the larger rivers coming in, you can see here that we've got 490 cubic feet per second. And then it shows you that there's not much of a change expected. Now, if there's some rainfall coming, I'm sure those projections will change. If we scoot on over here to take a look at Kentucky Lake and Barkley Lake, much larger river systems, the Tennessee River, you can see what the projected outflow is going to be there, 28,000 cubic feet per second. Go check the Cumberland River here. We got 9.4 thousand cubic feet per second. Just an amazing feature that allows you to see all of the different water flows coming into the different parts of the lake. You can see which ones might be the most affected, which ones won't be affected, see what the projected outflow schedules are. A major feature to help you catch more fish. And that's on top of some of the other new features like the wind effects. Now, the wind effects is really cool because we've had wind effects as part of the app in the past, but all it did is show where the wind was hitting the shoreline the most, as you can see from the dots, the orange and bright red dots, which indicate where the wind is really striking. But now the wind feature also indicates what the wave action is like on the lake itself. So some of the features you're going to get from this is determining where to get from place to place safely by avoiding the heavy, rough water conditions. You'll be able to determine where you may have some of the strongest current flow and some of the places where you can fish to stay protected. Now, along with that, you still have some of my favorite features like the patterns that you've got on the lake that indicate the best baits and lures to fish with. You've also got the water inflow app, which shows you where a bunch of the rain input comes in. That can be an amazing pattern to fish throughout the year. Just a great feature to have. So many positive features anytime you're fishing or using the Deep Dive app. Just points you in the right direction to catch more fish. Whether you're a tournament angler or a local fun fisherman that's just out to catch a few fish, the Deep Dive app will help you catch more fish next time you're out on the water. So let's start this off. The first and foremost, I think one of the best fall winter topwater baits that we've seen for a long time now is your plopper style baits. Like this is Berkeley Chopo. This is their new Screamin' Chopo. But the Chopo is such a good bait at casting and winding and covering bank. And that's where a lot of your bites are going to come from. So generally speaking, what you're doing is just running, as I get this stuck in the carpet, you're running, a lot of secondary points, a lot of shoreline, rock transition, things like that. You're just trying to cover as much water as possible. Now, in all instances, generally speaking, you're not looking to catch a ton of fish. A lot of times your quality is going to be a little bit better, but the number of bites is down as well. If you can go out and catch 7 to 10 fish, that's usually a pretty good day of fall, winter topwater fishing, but you could catch some really big fish. So a Chopo is a great, great choice. Now, prior to having baits like the Chopo, your plopper style baits, I would say a buzzbait was the primary one. This one just showed up the other day. This is the new Berkeley Riveter. I'm excited to give this a try once the spring rolls around. But buzzbaits are perfect for this. And buzzbaits are very similar to your plopper style baits when you really start to look at them. It's a cast and wind, cover a lot of water. For me, I will throw the buzzbait over a bait like the Chopo if I've got a little bit of grass floating around. Sometimes depending on the lake you're on, sometimes in the fall you'll have some grass and stuff that starts moving up to the surface where you can't necessarily run a treble hook bait, but your buzzbait still comes through real well. Sometimes in the middle of turnover you start to get some of that bottom, decaying composition that floats up. But a buzzbait, still an excellent, excellent choice for fall, winter topwater fishing. Now, once I've gone through those two baits, another one that I love to throw is just a bigger topwater, a walking style topwater bait. This is the Vixen. And these are baits I've taken right out my tackle box. You can see how much use I've given this one over the years. I've caught a lot of fish on this one. But a topwater walking bait, the Vixen, something like a Spook, along those lines, it allows you to cover a lot of water. Generally speaking, you can throw this at the bank, but you can also throw it out in some of your ditches over, some deeper water. It's a good bait at calling fish up. Maybe you've got some schooling fish. Just an area that, if you've got an area that's got a lot of shad in it right now, a walking bait like that can be dynamite. And then to counter that, the one bait that I will throw that's a slower moving bait is your wake bait style. So whether it's something like the old Bomber Long A, if I can get it here. So you got the Bomber Long A or the old Cordella Redfin. These two baits are much slower retrieve baits where you're casting it out, keeping the rod tip up. You're keeping it so it's just creating a V wake on the surface. A wake bait style bait can be dynamite. I've talked a lot about how throwing some of your shorter crankbaits and keeping them on the surface can be really good. For me, that's a little bit more of a northern technique than it is a southern technique. If I'm down south, I'll generally go more with like a traditional wake bait style bait. Now, you definitely can throw your bigger, square bill style baits and do the same thing, but I just seem like I have a little bit better luck down south, and I don't know if that's because the forage, the fish are feeding more on shad, which are a longer profile, versus the bluegill, which is generally what I feel like I'm trying to mimic with those square bills. But these are the baits that I'm choosing anytime you get the falling water temperatures. So, if you're down south and your water temps are in the 60s or falling into the 50s, you definitely should still be considering your topwater baits. Don't put them away until really the water temp starts getting below that 50-degree mark. Even then, you might have a few specific instances where they can work, but generally when you get down below the 50-degree mark topwaters are not going to be your best choice. So hopefully this answers some of the questions that I've been getting regarding topwaters in cold water. You definitely can still catch fish, and then they can actually outshine a lot of other baits. So give them a try. I'll put links for each of these in the video description if you want to check these out. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Appreciate all the support. Stay tuned. New video coming out tomorrow.